as the seasons change and as the availability gets, changes, we're able to customize what they really enjoy, the flavors of the season change. And just because that changes doesn't mean I have to stay the same. I can change with it.
Welcome to the Private Chef Podcast, serving the 1%. I'm your host, Hannes Henche, and on our show we speak to the best chefs, how they honed in on their skills to excel in the industry, and what it takes to work as a private chef for some of the most exclusive clients in the world. Welcome back to the Chef Series. Today we have Chef Josh. He has a slightly different angle to the industry. Unlike some of us who maybe came from the Michelin star restaurant background, he really carved out his own path through sheer passion. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Hi, Johannes. So I'm glad to be here. So I was born and raised in the northeast part of Arkansas, and I loved seeing the vegetables and the fruits and stuff like that. But my passion was being in the church and just serving the church. And, for a while, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I was 17 years old and I said, well, what do I enjoy doing the most right now? And so I was 17 and I said, I really, really enjoy watching the cooking shows. I love the competition between Iron Chef and like the old Iron Chef shows. And so that's when I decided at 17, I'm 33 now, that, hey, this is what I want to do. And so my dad was currently living.
Did it turn out anything like the shows?
No, no. Well, in some aspects, yes, but just growing up on those shows, me and my grandmother used to watch them all the time, and it just sparked an interest. So I thought, maybe I can do this, maybe I can't, but let me try it. But it's funny, my dad said, hey, I'm living in South Carolina right now, and I'm able to, you can come stay with me, and you can go to culinary school here. They've got a great program. So I thought, well, let's do that. Let's try that. And so I ended up living with my dad in Columbia, South Carolina, and I was able to live with him and go to school. And I found a casual dining restaurant out there. But then I worked there for a couple of years and felt the call to go to Africa. So I was a missionary in Africa, Monrovia, Liberia, Africa for 2 years. And, I loved what I was doing, but it was just really stretching, one of those things where I had to come to grips with the reality that life is not like, it is in America everywhere. So with that said, I, was still dating a girl at the time, and I came back home, got married, and found a couple restaurants there. But, starting a family was kind of one of those things where, you need to have a full-time job, a stable job. So she really pushed me, and I decided, I was like, I'm going to go into the management field. It's more stable, there's benefits, and this is, what I can do to raise my family. And so doing that for a while, it didn't spark my interest as much as, because I kept doing the same thing over and over. And it was a little bit to a burnout point. And I was like, I want to do something that I enjoy doing and I love doing. And so let me, and I was cooking all along, I've enjoyed cooking for my family, enjoyed cooking for others, but I never really charged for it, because, I just love doing it. Until I decided to get on a couple platforms, and I said, let me start doing this just on the side as a side business. And so I started teaching a couple of young kids how to chop and how to cut and how to do the traditional things, and that was great at first, but I decided, this is not where I want my family to be at, and so I decided to really push for the opportunities that, Thumbtack Pro and a couple other companies have, and, you can bid for jobs, and you can, look at these things. And so I really started, bidding for those jobs. And I would get ideas from, of course, I would get ideas from the things that I did in the past, right? So I worked for Solstice Kitchen and Wine Bar. It was a upscale casual dining restaurant. I worked for a couple other, fast casual places, but not the fine dining experience that I did in school. So I got a lot of recipes and ideas from Pinterest and from YouTube. And so I thought, well, what are chefs doing today? How are they doing it? And so I kind of pushed that past, when I was doing. So I first couple of years, that's what I did on the side, and I was able to, do over 100 services. Right now, my Thumbtack status is 5-star rating off of 41 reviews. And now I'm in my third year, and I was able to quit my full-time job as a manager of a restaurant. And now I'm doing this full-time. And it's been pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I want to touch up on is kind of having that drive for self-education and also self-starting, like you put yourself out on platforms, and also kind of going into Pinterest, YouTube, and really see, I think the internet is an ocean of recipes these days. And you're not the first chef I'm talking to who's like, hey, basically there's so many recipes out there and techniques. And I mean, there's whole YouTube channels on techniques themselves, and people that are interested and passionate home chefs, they to some degree can really level up just being dedicated to their passion. And that's something that I'm not only hearing from you, but from other chefs. It's, I think back in the days, people would frown a little bit up on people that come through sheer passion and are very dedicated. But I think there is more so now the opportunity to become pretty sophisticated through having that drive of self-education and, really throwing yourself behind your passion. And that's a path in itself. So how did you eventually go from there? I think right now you're at Cape Cod, you said, right? So how did you manage to connect with families, who also bring you to other places and take you into their home, and you earn their trust and you cook for them, because that's really the next level for a private chef. How did you go from being a passionate home chef to that level?
So first, I had to make a decision. I had to make a decision that I wanted to do this full time. So I was doing it part time for a long time, and there for the beginning of this year, I said, this is something that I really want to do full time. I'm going to push myself and be like, you know what, I can do this. I can do this full time. And when I got, there was actually a request through Thumbtack that came in. They said they wanted a full-time chef. They enjoyed it last year. They want it this year. But, they had a hard time finding someone. And I said, you know what, this sounds like a great opportunity to be, to actually take that step of faith and say, you know what, I'm going to, in April, so I'd made the decision in January. I said, in April, I'm going to quit go part-time with my full-time job. And that was my idea. And then just open up my calendar completely, on every website. That way I can just fill it up with gigs. And the moment I did that is when it really started opening up. And, building trust with customers and with guests, it's really about working together and really about being super flexible and being understanding. And, I have this family in Cape Cod that I've been able to serve all summer, and to anywhere from 2 to 3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week. And just because it's my commute. If it was, if I was closer, because I actually right now I live in Connecticut, so if it was a little bit closer, it would be more. But the relationship that I've been able to build with them has been really good, because I've honed in on what they like. Every family is very unique in what they like. So being able to adjust and to really conform to what they really like is key, because this family particularly loves spicy food. They love ethnic food. They really enjoy that on everything. So if I'm able to manufacture every little bit of food that I do and put that kind of spin on it, then they really enjoy it. And they're like, kudos to just learning from them, really learning and growing, to their likes. They said out of 5 chefs, they said I'm their favorite chef, which is a compliment, but it's also like, I've been able to learn the ethnic cuisine through YouTube. I've been able to learn that through, these other platforms where I'm like, I see that, I can do it. And then I can spin that off of every little, whether it be fish or whether it be, vegetarian night or whatever it may be. I've been able to adjust to what they like.
Yeah.
So
I actually think YouTube is an amazing resource, not only for cooking, but in general. It's like a university for so many things. It's incredible the kind of, obviously there's also a bunch of nonsense out there and there's a bunch of recipes that might not work, but I think kind of going through that, you can find so much valuable content that serves you, especially in the kitchen.
Absolutely. And there's so much of a resource in being able to learn and grow. And what I've found with families is, as the seasons change and as the availability gets, changes, we're able to customize what they really enjoy, the flavors of the season change. And just because that changes doesn't mean I have to stay the same. I can change with it, being able to accustom to fall vegetables right now is really, really exciting. Everybody, a lot of people love the fall, and a lot of people, right now it's September, and, September is really nice for vegetables and really nice for those flavors. And so being able to adjust that and introduce that, and even introduce some things that are new, it's really exciting. So just to give one quick story about this family, is this family, they now trust me to where I can just say, hey, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. And they're like, okay, great. So they didn't know the dessert that I had yesterday. And so we did an avocado ice cream, and it's something they never tried. But they enjoyed it because they trusted me. So it's really nice to be able to, build that trust and really, play to their strengths and their weaknesses and opening up their minds to new things. And so it's really been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So, where do you think you're going to take it from here? Do you think you want to work with one particular family? Do you enjoy earning that trust and having that relationship, or would you prefer working for multiple families?
Yeah. So right now, currently, I work for another family in New York City, and then for this family, they're about to be finished here. And then October 10th, they're going back to Kuwait. So they're not going to be here. Right now, I have a semi-stable gigs on the weekend where I'm doing bachelorette parties and doing those type of things, bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, and anniversaries. Those are kind of, right now, those are great. They filled up my calendar a little bit for the rest of this year. Going forward, having that relationship with a family is really nice. But I'm not a person that likes to be tied down. I don't like to be tied down to one spot. Yep. I think the excitement of being able to travel all over the 5 states that are surrounding me is exciting for me. So I really like doing that.
Yep. So how did you go about really nurturing those relationships that allowed you? Like, what did you do beyond the cooking as a personality in somebody's home to connect with the family? And what do you think is crucial for someone who is getting started? Because I think there are many, maybe restaurant chefs that have an attitude that might not be suitable for somebody's home.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, there's been... even this summer there has been, misconceptions and, we thought we communicated this, but no, it wasn't communicated, right? So there was one night where I assumed, I think it was July 4th weekend. So the 4th, they had all the meats, they had everything they needed, and so they asked me to bring everything else. They had all the proteins. And so I thought, my recollection was, oh, you're going to provide the meats for the week. But that was just for the 4th of July. So the 5th came, and I said, oh, I can't find the veal. And Yasmin said, well, I thought you were bringing that. We don't have veal. I'm like, oh, okay. So let me go grab that for you. Let me go grab some veal. And so she got a little bit anxious about it. I was like, I take responsibility. I take responsibility. Let me go grab some veal. She's like, well, where are you going to find it? It's like, well, I'll find it. That's the end of the story. I'll find some veal. And so I was able to find some veal at just a little bit farther away. It was about 40 minutes away. But taking responsibility and being able to be calm in the moment when you have a guest that might be a little bit upset or even the frustration, you just assume responsibility whenever necessary. You never blame shift, and you never say, well, this is what I thought. No, you just never go there, because that's never going to solve the problem. So from, I think it takes a lot of maturity on both parts, but at the same time, when you're serving a family that, there's going to be communication problems. There's going to be things that come up, but the best outcome is just to assume responsibility and take action and say, you know what, let me fix it, and just go from there. And from that point on, we had really, really good communication and a good working communication. And I think one other point is to grow a relationship with a family, we have to recognize that they're relationships. They're not. Yes, they enjoy the cooking. Yes, they enjoy the food. But when you're coming inside of a family's home, you bought into it. You bought into their lifestyle. You bought into, talking with the family. The family I serve right now, they have 4 nurses because the host of the family the father of the family has ALS. So, it's about, really cultivating those relationships and just saying hi. So.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that's also true in general. It's not just in the chef world, and in the private industry more so. It's definitely in the relationship business, but I think in life in general, everything boils down to relationships and how you treat people, how you speak to them, and really the attitude towards other people. And I think that's something that doesn't necessarily translate coming from a restaurant environment that's very harsh. To make that shift might be one of the biggest challenges for chefs.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the reasons why I did get outside of, went into the management field and got outside of the restaurant field is because of the harsh environment. And I get it. I understand the pressure. I have an assistant that I work with now, and he's more laid back. He's more laid back, and he doesn't really, work quickly. And so one of the things that I've been able to help him do is really form that relationship between both of us, where we're great friends, but also to challenge him and to help him become more efficient at what he does. Now, one of the things I love about him is that he's so particular and he's so precise about what he does. And so that quality outweighs a lot of other, like working slow. It doesn't really matter because I can, speed up or whatever and finish whatever I need to get done. So what is, you got to find, especially when you're working with people, you got to find their weaknesses and their strengths and really play to that. And I learned that in the management field is you really got to play to people's weaknesses and strengths. That way they can kind of see where, what they want. And because when you come from a harsh environment and you're getting yelled at all the time, you just don't want to work with someone like that. And so,
Well, but it's kind of that's kind of how restaurants operate for the biggest part.
Yeah. Yeah. But the thing is restaurant work taught me how to have a tough skin, harsh, you know, any kind of criticism is actually good criticism, whether it's taken the wrong way or not. But, you know, having my own business, I'm able to, you know, craft that in such a way where I'm like, all right, this is not just a transaction. It's not just, you know, where he has to work for me. No, it's not like that. It's forming relationships produce long-term success. And so that's, you know, in the back of my mind, that's what's always going on. It's like, okay, how can I approach this in the best way, but also get the desired outcome, right? Because at the end of the day, we're serving people in a specific time span, and we're serving people, and they hold the highest expectation. I mean, we're charging them for it, so they hold the highest expectation for us. So, you know, what is that medium, right? Where is that medium of being able to get the best out of your people, but also respect them as well? I think that comes with a great relationship with them.
Yeah, I think that's a very crucial point. You know, you really want to, I mean, it also helps people to build skills, to expect something from them and give them standards to live up to. But at the same time, you want to do it in a way where you don't crush them and crush their spirits, you know, where you elevate them and you help them to become the best version of themselves without beating them up. And maybe sometimes I'm wondering if I need to be beaten to get the best out, but maybe that's just a kitchen hangover that I'm still dealing with.
So, yeah, you know, I have a 8-year-old daughter, and, you know, life with, as a personal chef doesn't really, you know, cater to having really, really great relationships with, you know, my daughter right now. But what I realize is that, you know, the work that I do now and the work that I help, I facilitate for her now is a blessing to her, and is a blessing to, you know, the thing that she needs. And, you know, having a family is not always easy, you know, with this business. But what I've learned is that you can make time, you know, whether it be 500 miles or 300 miles or 200 miles, you know, making time for your family, for me, has been super beneficial.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's super important. Kids only grow up once, and you know, you wanna share those moments with them. So how did you go from just cooking for friends and family, not charging anything, to finding your price spot in the industry, you know, and now to a degree where you travel, you're in people's homes, which usually comes at a very different price point. And how did you navigate that for yourself? Because I think that's definitely a point where many private chefs or personal chefs in the early stage, I think they really tend to undercharge because they just feel like they want to get work. And then eventually the box opens up and you see what you can really charge.
Right. So my first year, I remember I was charging like $50 a person, you know, and it was not getting me anywhere. And I remember charging, well, I was like, well, you know, maybe if I can charge $75 a person, let me see if that helps. And so, and that was without grocery cost or travel fees. And so I was like, you know, I finally got some really good advice from someone. And she was like, Josh, I don't care what you charge. Even if you charge $150 a person, just make that clear to the customer, because they really want to know what they're getting charged. They may be wealthy owners, business owners, or whatever, but you know, even if it's $150 a person, charge them and let that charge be included in everything. You know, and so there's a lot of debate about that, and there's some instances where I have to really, you know, look at that and be like, oh, does that make sense? Because in the beginning it was just a side business, but now it's my full-time business. So what changed from there to there is you know, looking at my side business and saying, man, this business made this amount of money, but look how much that I spent in advertising costs. I spent $3,000 in advertising costs. I spent that. So really looking at it from a budget perspective. My first couple of years was really intriguing. I was like, wait a minute, I spent how many hours on this? And then I spent how much money on this? I'm not making enough. And so in order to go from, you know, year 2 to year 3, I said, look, this is my platform. This is where I have to go. But also I recognize that my learning curve has to change with that as well, right? So, I might be able to up the ingredients and maybe really put caviar and put prime steaks on the menu, but I also have to increase my learning, increase my techniques, because if somebody's paying $150 for a plate, they're going to expect what they expect, and some people expect a small portion that has intricate details. Other people expect a huge menu where they get plenty of food. They care about the quality, they care about this, and they want, they expect a full dining meal. I think, and this is just me, but I personally think that when you're dealing with bachelorette parties and bachelor parties, you deal with one type of people. But then when you deal with, and this exception is not for everything, but then when you deal with private chef work, when you deal with private families, you deal with another type of work. And that has to, you have to really get a sense of, okay, what do they really want? Do they want, or what are they used to? And then how can you say, hey, look, this is what I can work for with this period of time, but then I want you to really evaluate, my value to you and see what this is, because then this is when I have to charge for the next amount of time, right? So when you deal with a family, as for instance, I've worked for this family in Cape Cod, and it's normally been, it's been actually a little bit less expensive. But I looked at it all around and I said, this is a great opportunity, right, to build a relationship with a family. Well, they offered me a full-time job to cook for his daughter in Massachusetts. And I respectfully, I haven't, declined or said anything to them yet. But, the way it looks, it could be a great opportunity. Would it be something that I'm interested right now? Probably not, because I like traveling. I think when you're dealing with the particular food that you deal with, so, for one, we're not going to, and nothing against caterers, because caterers, they have their place, but we're not caterers, we're private chefs, right? So the differentiation between that is important, because we don't cater, we provide a private chef service. And so when you put that value on it and you include that value in your menu, then people are able to see the price and be like, oh, okay, well, that's okay, because I see the value behind it and I see the value that he's bringing to the table, instead of bringing a catering business where I'm dropping the food off and leaving.
Yep. So sometimes I'm joking that one of the biggest luxuries is having homemade fries that you don't have to make yourself, because any kind of fries delivered, they don't taste great anyway. So it's, and I'm just kidding. Obviously, we're cooking way more than just fries, but there is something about getting a piping hot fry in your own house that you don't have to make yourself, and people love it.
That's right. That's right. And we're making. We're not only just giving great food, we're really giving great memories while doing that, because, creating food that people remember, creating food that people remember, and they're able to, sit down and eat and be able to remember what they did when they were younger. Food brings memories. So whenever you
creates memories. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So is that what do you like the most about being a private chef? What do you appreciate about being in somebody's home?
I really enjoy the flexibility that I have. I normally don't plan out a menu 2 to 3 weeks in advance. I don't want to plan out a menu a week in advance. And I really appreciate that, because then I can see what needs to be made up, what needs to be cooked up first, or I see what needs to be, made first, and then I can plan from day to day and be able to say, I really enjoy the flexibility. the flexibility of having my own schedule, the flexibility of really making time for, the things that I want to do on the side, and being able to cook for them. Like today, I had the flexibility of eating lunch, and then I don't have to do anything until 2:00, and where I go buy groceries, and then 4:00 I start cooking. So there's really nice flexibility with that. There's the flexibility of not having to deal with anybody over me. Like I don't have a boss that is constantly asking me how I'm doing. So I think self-motivation really is very key to the private chef industry, because you have to be, it's a lot more responsibility, but it's less stress, so it is more responsibility. You have to look at other things and be like, all right, I have to get this done by this time, and this, this thing, because I'm busy the rest of the week. After I work today, I've got Friday, I've got 2 people in Brooklyn, New York, and then I've got 9 people in another state, so I have to be disciplined. At the same time, I get the flexibility. So, and I think that's the best part of my job.
Yeah, well, you're quite on the road. What do you love about the traveling aspect of the job?
Well, my dad is a truck driver. He's been driving for 30 years, so over 30 years. So I grew up in the trucking industry, traveling with my dad all over the Northeast. And so every time I get to go through Hartford, I remember the time that we went through Hartford. Every time I remember I enjoy the traveling, and honestly, like, it's crazy to say, but I don't feel any pain in my body when I travel. Like, like usually people, are like sore and stuff. I don't get sore, not anymore, so it's I don't get sore while traveling. I don't dread traveling. It's just one of those things. It's part of the job. I think getting to explore the United States, and I enjoy it.
But for you, it's different. It seems like it's part of your emotional home. You enjoy it because there's also those memories. It's just like what you described with the food, where food creates memories. But for you, it's being on the road is like a childhood memory. It reminds you of being with your dad.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Me and my dad, we had a lot of fun traveling from state to state. He drove all up the Northeast. So we went as far as to Maine, Pennsylvania. We would go all through up the Northeast. And so, being able to, to relate times where we went here, went to Albany, New York, and we went here, it's nice.
Nice. Yeah. So what are some of the techniques or maybe new ingredients that you've picked up lately?
Lately, some of the techniques that I've been I guess some of the new items I've been able to pick up is just the new desserts that are coming in, and being able to poach some pears and wrap them in puff pastry and chocolate and dripping with caramel and things like that. Like I'm getting excited about the fall, doing the roasted fall vegetables. Being able to see, I've got a customer in December that wants veal chops, so I'm trying to get with a farmer now and trying to see about some veal chops and things like that. So, being able to look at those kind of ingredients. Lately, I've been able to pick up some, prime steaks and caviar and just, a couple of different things where, I'm really able to customize my menu, and I've been changing my menu. I've been evolving my menu and taking off things that are not sellable and putting some new things on that are possibly going to sell. And so, our private chef world it's very private. Like we don't see a lot of chefs in passing. We don't talk to each other on forums. We don't really console with each other like, hey, what is working right now? We're not that type of people, and I don't get it. I don't understand why we're not. But what I do understand is that, if a menu is to be, if it's to be desired and if people like it, it has to be constantly changing. Like if there's something that's not working, then change it. if something is working and people really are starting to, if we're seeing a trend, if I'm seeing a trend where people are just really ordering caramelized banana bread pudding with, butterscotch topping, then I'm going to keep it on the menu. I'm going to keep it there, as much as I don't enjoy making it or it's not really fancy. I don't care. People like it. I'm going to keep it there. Lately I've done this simple ganache cake, but literally it's from every person that I make it for, they say, Josh, it's the best chocolate cake I've ever had. And so will I ever take it off the menu? Right now, no. So, that's been a great menu item. And so, and even with, things that I do for appetizers, I've been changing a lot of appetizers lately, I just want to be seasonally relevant and be able to, costly relevant too, so, coming into the season of, where it's starting to get cold, it's just now starting to get cold and, groceries are going up. So I'm like, I need to incorporate some short ribs. So I'm going to do some Chianti braised short ribs with mushrooms and bacon and some caramelized, onions and mashed potatoes, just a little bit of, fall menu items, upscale casual type, fall menu items.
Yeah. I think one of the, since you're just saying it upscale casual, one of the things is what I learned over the last decade working for families is they want the ability to eat refined and, have a fine dining touch. But at the end of the day, the week looks different. They want homey food in the winter. They like it cozy and delicious. And, in the summer, many of them just tend to go a little bit lighter. But there is this part of the industry where I know some families, they want like stiff fine dining every day, white glove service. But I think the majority of families, they're human and they like a more casual approach to their day-to-day. And, they want to eat homey food and delicious food and food that not only creates memories, but revives memories, which is some of the food you've been describing. It's not everything the whole year needs to be like, you're going to Le Bernardin or something like that, because those are experiences for certain days. And yes, it helps that the chef can deliver that. But at the end of the day, we're catering to humans that appreciate comfort food, and they also like their food.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming from Arkansas, we one of the reasons I moved away from Arkansas is because that's all they wanted to do was comfort meals and things like that. So, I had to get out of that mindset. But it's funny. There was one family I cooked for in New York City, and they said, Josh, my husband he travels to Tennessee all the time. And we can't find any restaurant up here that's really good comfort food, really good Southern, fried green tomatoes and, Southern fried chicken and things like that. So I did one meal since I've been up here 5 years that has been wrapped around comfort food, Southern comfort food. So it was fun. It was fun. I think now that I remember, this was 2 years ago, I did fried green tomatoes. I did a roasted red pepper pimento cheese. And then we did a Southern fried, chicken fried steak. Now that I remember, chicken fried steak, garlic mashed potatoes. Yeah. And it was just, and a homemade gravy. So, it was just one of those meals where it was like, it reminded him of working in Tennessee. And it just reminded him of one of his best meals because, he works in Nashville. He's a producer, and so it was a lot of fun. So they remembered that, and then they hired me again for their another party that they had for a brunch. So it was creating those relationships are super important.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, the movie Ratatouille. It's a Disney Pixar movie, and there's this like harsh critic, and then at the end when he eats, his favorite childhood dish, all of the harshness goes away, and he's just like, because that's how powerful food is, sometimes when you hit the nail as a chef and you bring it as close to home as possible, that's when they're really taken, you know.
Yeah, no, they're really taken back by that. And one of the things that I enjoy doing is helping them see that food is it's, you know, having a great relationship with the people helps them be more honest too, right? So it helps them be more comfortable telling you, hey, Josh, we really love this, but let's hold back on this next time. Let's not do this next time. And even if they're not great at explaining things, they can be like, well, it's not spicy enough. You know, this family that I have now are really good critics. They're really good. So I cooked for them the first time I cooked for them. It was only for two. You know, I cooked for Muhammad and Mr. Fozzie. And I cooked way too much food. Now, I thought it was just enough because, you know, they got a nice sample of 5 different things. It was only 5 shrimp, right, for each one of them. Well, it ended up being too much food for them. And so looking at it for that, and he's like, it wasn't spicy enough, as we've gotten closer and closer, and as I've cooked for them more often, I've been able to learn what they really enjoy. And it's been outside of my comfort zone. It's been something I've not done, but I've learned it, right? In the moment, I learned it. You know, just like I said last night, you know, I helped them get out of their comfort zone just a little bit more with having a great meal. And then they tried avocado ice cream, you know, like last night.
Yeah.
They tried avocado ice cream and they were like, wow, that's actually good. They enjoyed it. And, you know, things that we can, you know, explore somebody's palate, but also give them stuff that they really enjoy is important, you know. And, you know, there was one time that I ventured out because they're Israeli. So I cooked a little bit Israeli food. I didn't do the best job on it, but what they enjoyed that I took the risk, and I said, you know what? We took the risk. A couple people loved it. A couple people were like, oh, it's okay. I wanted lamb with it, but it was vegetarian night. So, you know, it's, you know, critiques are only to make you better. And what I've learned with this family is in the beginning, they were almost impenetrable, but, you know, as we went along, I was able to help create that relationship by just talking to them and to be nice to them and talk to them, and just, you know, being able to serve them is a huge reminder that we are in the service industry, and people really do appreciate it. Sometimes they just don't know how to express it, but they really do appreciate it.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. We are in the service industry. That's a crucial piece to the puzzle. We're here, and that might sound a little bit odd to people, but we're here to serve in a way. You know, that's why we're part of. And there's actually a part of me that enjoys that aspect of hospitality. You know, where you, especially, you know, if you can tell that somebody appreciates it. I guess. I mean, there's often times where it's not appreciated, where it's just expected. But with a sense of appreciation, it's even more pleasurable of a position or a job to have.
Yeah, it's definitely more rewarding when somebody loves your food. At the same time, you know, if somebody is not totally honest, how can we get better? You know, how can we get better if somebody's not 100% honest? So that's the joy about our business is able to, you know, refine and being able to, you know, I got 1 4-star review. And I was really concerned at why was that 4-star review, because everything they reviewed, the client, and I said, you know, I really appreciate your comment, and I value your comment, as I do always, but I want to ask for some clarity, because on the comment that you left, it was a glowing comment, but you only gave me 4 stars. So how can I improve on your next experience that we give to you? And she said, you know, everything was amazing. The steak was chewy, though. And I was like, oh. And so I started thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I've got great quality steak. And so what was I was thinking, well, I understand now I was using New York strip steak, and there was silver skin that I didn't take off. In that fat lining, there is silver skin, and some people just don't like to mess with it. And some people really don't like it. So I thought, you know what? That makes sense. From now on, I'll just take all of that off. I won't waste it. I'll be able to use it for, I'll cut it up and I'll use it for burgers, and I'll just, I'll be able to use this and just slice the steak with no connective tissue. And, it seemed like a lot of waste, but it's not really. It'll be fine. But if I never pressed to that comment, it wouldn't happen. So anyways.
Well, Josh, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing your story, and I hope this has been fun for you. It's been a great conversation, and I'm sure if people, pick up some of the tips that you shared with us, it's they're going to have an easier path into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I hope. So it was really nice to talk with you, and hope we talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at the Private Chef Podcast. If you know any highly skilled chefs that want to take their life to the next level, make sure to share this podcast with them. And if you enjoyed this episode, click subscribe and check out our upcoming episodes. Thank you for listening.